It's safe to say in any other year of the current regulations, a significant step towards a return to form like Mercedes had at Canada would have been celebrated as a brilliant achievement for everyone involved. Having struggled to find any kind of rhythm across a weekend, never mind a meaningful stretch of form across a season for the past few years, Mercedes seemed to have rediscovered an aspect that appeared to have been left behind in the last regulations, and from an engineering side, it seems that the team may have turned a corner. Why is it then that this season, in one of the most chaotic races in recent memory, a third and fourth place finish has left a slight tang in the mouth of those in the Brackley team? In a video a few weeks back, we said how the silly season seems to have eclipsed all things even beyond the driver market, and it really seems that Mercedes are being crushed under the weight of the changes occurring throughout the sport, and especially the changes within their own team. It's clear that Mercedes are handling their driver relationship as cordially as possible, and that the engineering department have steadied the ship in regards to the sporadic instability present in the car, but there really does seem to be something weighing down on the team more so than any others on the grid. Want to know why Mercedes can't seem to shake off their malaise? It's clear that not all is well behind the scenes, but just how prevalent of an issue could this prove to be? So it's safe to say, even though the weekend was certainly a step forward for Mercedes, they were by no means satisfied with their performance. Starting with Hamilton's frustration on Saturday as he saw himself 6 places behind his pole-sitting teammate back in 7th place, it seemed that the frustrations were limited to one side of the garage. George Russell's celebrations on Saturday and bold claims of "we have a race to win" in regards to Sunday showed a resolute confidence in the car and a belief that the pace was there to keep the rest of the field behind. Cut to after the race, however, it became clear that the frustration and dejection was equal across the garage, and even though it was the team's best result collectively upon crossing the finish line, nobody seemed to be satisfied with the weekend. I think this weekend the car was capable of winning is something said by Lewis Hamilton after the race, who was entirely downbeat about how the weekend had played out, and it seems that he was correct, given the pace shown at times by both drivers. So what exactly was it that let the opportunity slip out of their hands? Well, Hamilton's weekend is probably the easiest to summarize, as he believes that his fate was sealed due to his comparatively poor qualifying on Saturday. When talking after the race, the driver, who is often very quick to call out faults in the car or the setup, showed that he wasn't afraid to point the finger back the other way, as he bore the weight of the disappointment on himself, saying, "It was over the weekend, just a really poor performance from myself. Yesterday, some other things came into it, but mostly myself. Then today, just one of the worst races that I've driven, just lots of mistakes, but of course, if I'd have qualified better, I would have been in a much better position. So it is what it is. I will go back to the drawing board." However, despite the disappointment with his performance, Hamilton acknowledged that the combined efforts of the team has given them a car which may be able to challenge at the front, meaning that potentially we could see 4 teams duking it out at the front, something which, if you had told us at the start of the season, we would not have believed you about. On a positive note, a big thank you to everyone back at the factory for progressing this car, because it is becoming a car we can fight with. That's a real positive going into the next part of the season. I know we'll hopefully have some more upgrades coming along the way, so it's going to be a close battle. If I get my head on right, I'll get better results at some stage. And given that Hamilton has a track record of doing so, it's safe to say that this drop in mentality and ability won't likely be repeated, and he will take the opportunity to maximize the car if presented with the opportunity again. On the other side of the garage, however, it could only have been what unfolded in the race that led to disappointment. Maintaining the lead into the first corner at Canada, putting up a solid defense and seeing Max Verstappen nearly drop the car and become threatened from behind, Russell in the early stages of the race looked to be on top of things. However, given the ghosts of previous races, even one at the very circuit he now led at, until Russell proves otherwise, he really does have a clanger in him. His pace is undeniable, but on multiple occasions he has dropped the ball through questionable pushing, lapses in concentration, and unforced errors. Following the race, Russell rued the missed opportunity, but at least enjoyed the challenge of fighting at the front. It felt like a missed opportunity, to be honest. We were really quick at the beginning of the race on the intermediate tyres, and then obviously Lando came through really fast, and then we jumped back onto the slicks. I made a couple of mistakes out there just pushing the limits, paid the price for it, but nevertheless, first podium of the year. We truly had a really fast car this weekend, and to be back in the mix fighting for victory was really fun. That's what Formula One's about, and that's why we go racing. However, given Toto's blunt message telling George to focus up, this weekend within the wider context of Mercedes' current driver conundrum does paint a pretty worrying picture for George. The insistence at the moment is that Andrea Kimi Antonelli is the best thing since bread was even baked, never mind sliced. And when this is contrasted with a team where Russell is meant to be taking up the mantle of number one next year, has all the signs of a usurping in years to come. George was given an opportunity of a lifetime this weekend to prove that he can handle pressure where Mercedes thinks they belong, at the front, and when the time came, he failed to maximize the weekend like those around him. While all of this may sound harsh, it's a harsh sport we're talking about here, where if there is even the slightest opportunity presented, there is a person waiting in the wings to take your place. Hamilton, while having a terrible weekend, finished just one spot behind, and if not for a bold lunge which Hamilton was lenient towards to say the least, he would have finished in front of his teammate, or could have even been crashed out by him. The fact that they were even fighting in the first place and finishing just half a second apart, when at one point Hamilton was a good 20 seconds behind Russell, is something that wouldn't likely have happened if the shoe was on the other foot. Now, we should say right here, right now, that we are by no means blind Hamilton fanboys, and Russell may well be the leader that Mercedes needs him to be if he tidies up his racing and refines his craft to match his pace. However, the way that you allow Russell to develop and do that is not by introducing a young hotshot that is meant to be the second coming of Christ in the seat next to him. The balance of the team, if Russell needs more time, could be massively compromised by the introduction of Antonelli, something which could potentially ruin either driver's career. George may get usurped from the number one seat by a generational talent, and Antonelli may have his development stunted by being promoted too early into a team that doesn't have a number one driver that is fully ready to take on the mantle of leading him and taking him under his wing. The way George could have taken his drive to the next level is fighting on a level playing field with a competent driver who would push him. However, Toto Wolff seems to have other plans. Jacques Villeneuve has certainly said some pretty outrageous things in his time. I mean, he did exactly that this weekend. However, he really seemed to hit the nail on the head with his assessment of the driver situation at Mercedes, as he said, "Mercedes is not really an open door. It's Kimi Antonelli's team. That's the future. He's been prepped for it. Toto will not have it any other way. There's ego in there. He will prove to the world that he was right, that when Antonelli was 12, he knew that he was a future champion. And it's critical that Wolff now proves himself right. Having let Verstappen slip, he has now labelled Antonelli as the future of the team, something that he himself revealed as the reason for not signing Carlos Sainz for the 2025 season. We just want to concentrate on Kimi, that is our future, young drivers. We want to commit to that, to young drivers, and that is what we've told Carlos." This kind of sentiment is something that could spell danger for George Russell moving forwards, and it seems given his inability to secure a top step at Canada and Wolff's frustration over his lapses on track, it may well allude to what the future of Mercedes could look like. If Antonelli is truly comparable to the greats that people are insisting he is, then his introduction could spell a rather uncomfortable few years ahead for Russell if he is unable to put his current shortcomings to rest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Is George now just being seen as some sacrificial lamb to be fed to Antonelli in his rise up the championship? Or do Mercedes still have greater plans for him? At the end of the day, Antonelli is still an entirely unknown entity within the top echelon of motorsport, so Mercedes will likely be hoping that either way, Russell gets his act together. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you for watching.